On this episode of the InsurTech Geek podcast, we're talking about intrapreneurship and disrupting insurance from within with Bobbie Collies from Coterie Insurance. The InsurTech Geek podcast is all about technology that's transforming and disrupting the insurance world. We'll be interviewing guests and doing deep dives into specific tech we see changing the industry. We're taking you on a journey through insurance tech, so enjoy the ride and geek out. Terra, this week's episode sponsor, is revolutionizing the world of workers' compensation claims and policy management. Terra's cutting-edge platform empowers insurers with comprehensive benchmarking tools, robust management systems, and an integrated ancillary services marketplace. Discover how Terra is driving innovation and efficiency in workers' comp at terra.insure. That's terra.insure. And we are back with another great episode of the InsurTech Geek podcast. With me, my illustrious co-host, the most interesting man in insurance, Rob Galbraith. Rob, how are you doing?
Doing well, James. Doing well. Yeah, we I think are just coming off of our third trip to the pet vet this year. So our poor puppy is not all of there's some kind of random stuff. So, but she's thankfully doing well again. Nothing to be concerned about. But yeah, I don't know why that's happened this year of all the years.
Pets are lovely till they're not, and then they get really expensive. I think my 14-year-old daughter had to have an unsuccessful surgery on a hamster recently, which I did not know they would conduct surgery on hamsters, but they will. For our listeners out there, I am James Benham. I'm host of the InsurTech Geek podcast, proud resident of College Station, Texas, otherwise known as God's country. With me today from literally Mecca for me, and I need listeners to understand what this part of Wisconsin is like if you're a pilot and aircraft owner. Oshkosh, and she's from just south of Oshkosh, but Oshkosh, Wisconsin, has this really great air show. 700,000 people go every year. 10,000 plus airplanes fly in. And for 7 days, it's the busiest airport in the whole planet. And there is nothing like it on the planet Earth. And it turns out Bobbie Collies from Coterie lives about 30 minutes away. And so I am super excited to have her on the podcast today, not just because she's brilliant. She works for a very interesting company, but also because she lives in one of my favorite places on earth to go visit. Bobbie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, James. Thanks for having me. And yeah, thanks for talking up Oshkosh. We could use a little bit more economic stimulus in this area. So appreciate that.
Yeah. The other 51 weeks a year, right? It's like, for 1 week, everyone knows about Oshkosh, and the other 51, it's pretty quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. They have this airfield there, Whitman Airfield, big airport. I mean, it's like physically a huge airport. It has to be to accommodate this big of an air show. And they got an air base, and they've got an ultralight runway, and they've got a grass strip, and they've got, multiple paved runways. And then they have a sea base. I'm a seaplane pilot as well. I've never actually landed at the sea base, but I like to fly in and camp out. I tried putting my tent under the wing and it didn't fit. And so I had to kind of put it behind the plane. But there's nothing like waking up at, 7:30 in the morning to the sound of airplanes buzzing overhead, starting to land. It's incredible.
Yeah. I get to hear it from my house every day. I'm at least flying over, and it kind of brings a different type of definition to tailgating, right?
Yes.
Camping behind the plane, right under the tail.
It does. It is. You're literally tailgating. It's a totally different deal, but it's super fun. And Wisconsin's just a cool place. I've because of Oshkosh, decided to explore other parts of the state and really enjoyed it. Their summertime's amazing. I mean, God bless you for surviving 5 months of winter, but, sometimes 6, but, from June, I think, till kind of October, you've got a really awesome place to live.
Yeah, it's awesome. And if you embrace the winter, it's actually pretty awesome as well. Ice fishing, skiing, shoeing, all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. There's downhill skiing too.
Yeah.
You can, like, I spent 14 years, kind of spending 3 months a year in Michigan, and we have great downhill skiing there, great cross country skiing, great snowmobiling. If you hunt for activities, there's actually a lot of fun stuff to do in the wintertime. in the
Yeah.
Midwest. Yeah.
Yeah. When you get a chance, just go to YouTube and look up sturgeon spearing. It's pretty wild, and it's one of the only places on Earth that it happens. Right off the shores of Oshkosh, actually. And I actually happened to be in an episode of Wisconsin Foodie that features sturgeon spearing, and it's like harvest to table. So the caviar that comes from the sturgeon ends up on some of the high-end plates in New York City, selling for a lot of money. So it's very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've given me a new rabbit hole to dive down on YouTube. So thanks
Yeah,
for
you're
that.
welcome.
It's gonna have to work its way in with pimple popping videos and then like there's this weird genre of video of like trimming horse hooves that's actually like really popular on YouTube, and then of course flying videos.
Yeah.
That's like super high on my list. But yeah, I'm going to add that one to my list of things to go check out. Sturgeon spearing.
Yeah.
It sounds great.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So you're from Wisconsin. You went to school at UW, Madison, and then Oshkosh. You got a bachelor's in business. Then you went straight into work. It looks like into insurance. So what was it? Family that attracted you to insurance? Was it just the first available opportunity? Like what was the draw into insurance?
Yeah, I had 2 job offers out of college. One was working for Oshkosh Truck. The other one was working for Society Insurance. And when it came down to making the decision, insurance underwriting for bars and restaurants as early 20-year-old sounded a lot more fun than working on military vehicles. So I'm like, I know bars and restaurants. Like I kind of lived that scene for the last 4 years of my life. I can underwrite that. So Society is where I landed. And I started out as a commercial lines underwriting trainee, underwriting a book of business that was 40% bars and restaurants. So it was pretty cool.
Do a lot of loss prevention inspections.
Yeah, I went on a few field trips, I'll call them.
You walk in there, you do underwriting field trips, and go in there and go, we are not riding this bar.
Well, yeah. Or if I travel, I'd be like, okay, this is one place I really got to see what it looks like after 9 p.m. So yeah.
Yeah, I was in high school. I was a bus boy, bar back, helper. Let's put it that way. I cleaned things for a couple of years. Loved the job, actually. Loved the restaurant I was at, but definitely learned of all the mischief that goes on at bars and restaurants. It is a heavily mischievous place, both with the customers and the employees. And then just the fact that you've got a bunch of combustible gases sitting around, open fire,
hot stuff. Yeah, booze,
alcohol, heat sources. It's kind of got it all going on, right? I mean, so that was interesting. And you actually stayed. I mean, you were a commercial underwriter there, 8 years. Is that why you kind of are described often as an insurance junkie? Like you just like fell in love with it initially, and then like, oh no, this is what I'm doing the rest of my life.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like the word junkie makes me sound like I have a problem, but maybe I do, because I feel like I've never been able to even think about moving outside this industry. I've kind of been like, sucked in, and there's so much opportunity in insurance for improvement and innovation. It's endless, in my opinion, at this point.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I got sucked in through the technology vortex, and have progressively gotten more addicted to this. So it's I don't think junkie's a bad thing. I'm a tech junkie. I don't think that's bad. It just depends on what you're a junkie about.
Yeah.
it's like you can be an addict, and you can be a good kind of addict, or it can be a bad kind of addiction. It just depends on what you're addicted to.
Yeah.
So you've stuck with that for quite a while, and then you got into being a small accounts leader at QBE. Then you went to Secure Insurance, then Integrity, and then Grange. So you've had a pretty diverse career in commercial lines underwriting, which was like 15 years of that. And then you made a jump into marketing and then sales and marketing. So what was the desire to switch the teams inside the company?
Yeah. So it was actually when I was in a leadership role at Secura in underwriting, and it's part of the like the Future Leaders program that they had for developing folks. So I got assigned a project to lead a research project for the senior leadership team on how is technology going to impact distribution in PNC, and how would that impact Secura. So I started to dig in, like, what's this InsurTech thing? Like, what is this? What's going on here? And I met Ben and Ilya from Bold Penguin when it was just two of them with an idea. I met, Mike and Alan from Ask Kodiak when they just started kicking around, Appetite API. What's an API? I didn't understand what an API was as an underwriter. But we did several case studies on some, incumbent insurance organizations as well as some new InsurTechs. And it came very apparent to me that there was going to be a wave of technology that was going to impact how we do business and how insurance is distributed. And I've been an underwriter long enough. I went from writing small bops at Society to doing some middle market, more complex accounts at Secura. And I'm like, this is cool. I want to explore this a little bit more. And I knew in order to really understand how tech was going to impact distribution and how I could kind of insert myself and hopefully impact that for whatever organization I was working for, I had to get in. Right? I had to get into the sales and marketing org and start to make friends with partners, understand how independent agents are leaning into technology, understand how we could help our independent agents understand that this new tech is coming. Whether that's through our benefits program, our co-op benefits program, offering some new technology solutions, and just trying to find some tech forward agents to learn from and to spitball ideas around with. So that was kind of it was like 2016, I think that research project was. So if you look at my resume, you can kind of see it wasn't much longer after that where I started to transition over to the sales and marketing side.
Awesome. And then in March 22, you hopped into Coterie. What was and you've been there now since, and you're now chief insurance officer. You were VP of distribution, then chief growth officer, and now your role's changed to chief insurance officer. Just help us understand that evolution and what does Coterie do first, and then how's your role there evolved?
Yeah. So Coterie was interesting because when I was at the two prior carriers, after I did this research project, I really talked about putting a proposal together on let's stand up a digital MGA. Like, we have the paper, we have all the back office TPAs. Like, let's figure out how do we set up a digital MGA. We can, use APIs to distribute, small business products. As you can imagine, there's always, different priorities for large incumbent carriers. And it was like, that's cute and it's cool, but now's not the time. So when I got the call to potentially join Coterie after their Series B fundraise, it was late in 2021. I started having conversations with them. It made a whole lot of sense just because that was something I had put a proposal together for, and that was exactly what Coterie was doing. And I had some friends that work there, which always helps. People that I knew and I trusted. So I hopped over there in spring of 2022. By the end of 22, we had put together a pretty solid distribution strategy, and 23 rolls around. The person that was leading underwriting insurance for us left the org, and my boss is like, "Hey, you were an underwriting leader for a long time. You could do that too, right?" Yes, I can. Yeah. So at that point, I took on all of the growth org and then all of the insurance org, and then now it's kind of like this. My role is encompassing of everything except for, our data analytics, data science team, and then our finance, compliance, legal. But most everything else is kind of within my leadership and my team. It's been really fun just to, knock down silos, get people collaborating. And I think I told you guys before we warmed up the podcast recording that, 1 year at Coterie feels like 7 years. In incumbent life. So we're accomplishing a lot. We're moving fast. So it's been a ton of fun.
It moves quickly. Before I hand it over to Rob, I do have, Well, actually, no, I'm gonna hand it over to Rob, and then I'm gonna ask this question later. Rob, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, James. And Bobbie, so great to have you on the podcast. I couldn't believe when we were talking off camera before we started recording that you hadn't been on before, because you and I have known each other for several years. So I'm thrilled to have you on this episode. And I know our listeners and viewers will really take a lot from your experience. So I kind of want to just do a little more of a deep dive on Coterie. We talked about your kind of evolution, right? Working from several roles within the traditional carrier space, making that leap in early 2022 over to Coterie. Now you've been there for just over 3 years, which is, again, an eternity, right? Maybe that's like 21 years, whatever. And you've even had several roles now, right? At Coterie. Maybe you can just talk about how Coterie has evolved over the last 3 years, and then kind of end with just, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities that you're looking at today?
Yeah. So Coterie operates as a tech-enabled MGA, but really, our partners look at us as a full stack carrier, right? That's really kind of the problem that we solve for them. We are using data in ways that most incumbent carriers are not, in order to go collect all of the rating and underwriting information we need in order to get to a bindable quote. So last time I checked, we were at an average of 57 seconds from logging in and entering the name, address, verifying classification, and you get a 57 seconds, you get a bindable quote. In about 2 minutes, you have a bound quote with policy docs and a certificate of insurance. We've really focused a lot the last couple of years on diversifying our distribution, and our value prop to our agency partners is we're going to try to be in places, in your tech stack, wherever you need us to be in order for you to transact business with Coterie. So it's not like we're not trying to pull everyone to our dashboard. We're connected with all the agency management systems, all of the comparators. We have several direct integrations with some of our partners. In fact, 70% of our business is transacted through API, and only 30% is transacted through logging into our dashboard and actually transacting a quote. So we've signed up, I think, over 45,000 producers since we started this journey. We have about 13 to 15,000 active producers right now, depending on how you want to count them. And then, on average, we got about 4,000 folks that are producing with us on a monthly basis. So we got a lot of flow. I think our PIF count is around 85,000 now. So that's a lot. It's a lot of small policies that we have in force. So it's been a pretty cool journey. I think the challenge that we have is the opposite of what incumbents have. Is how do we bring more product to this great distribution engine that we've set up? Because we as a startup, you kind of rush into let's put this thing together. And James, you can probably attest to this as a tech guy. Let's do what we can to see if we have product market fit, and then if we do, then we'll kind of go back and start to shore up the tech so we can scale. That's kind of the place where we are today. But what I can say is, it doesn't feel like we're a startup anymore, Rob. It feels like we've past the point of cash flow positive. So we're starting to reinvest the money that we're making back into the org. It feels like we're kind of in this schmiddle zone of transferring into a much more mature organization with more governance. So it's been kind of fun to watch and be a part of. But I think the biggest challenges we have are let's get our tech shored up so we can have more products, and then also this transition, which feels uncomfortable for a lot of folks, from being, Wild West startup into having a little bit more governance around what we do, but not so much that, we're super slow.
Is that like wearing a Schmedium t-shirt?
Yes. Yes.
I don't,
yes.
and I was going to ask, what's a digital MGA now anyway? Because I work for I work for a few big carriers and TPAs. Then I work for some medium-sized carriers and TPAs, and then I work for some small. Because we have a small with the 2 dots. I work for a broad array. All of them have heavy digital initiatives. I don't think a single one of them uses paper. They've all really streamlined, to some extent. They're on a spectrum of streamlining their underwriting, quote, bind, pay, issue, renew policy, and streamlining claims. So how would you even define what a digital MGA is versus a MGA that uses all digital tech? Like, help me understand how you can define that now.
Good question, James. Like, here's my thought on this. Do you remember when digital marketing came out, and then like your marketing department had two separate, resources? One was, your marketing specialist, and one was your digital marketing specialist. And then at some point we just dropped digital because all of marketing became digital. I kind of feel the same way about where we're at. Are we just an MGA because everyone else is digital now, and it's really not a differentiator? Or like insure tech, like isn't almost all insurance technology now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense to me anymore, to be honest with you. And I've been in the space for 21 years, and I'm like, I'm not sure I see the difference anymore.
I can agree with you on that. I think that's a good challenge.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop the digital moving forward. You brought me to a point of the fork in the road where it's just gone. It's just gone.
Yeah. It's like y'all are just really efficient. You're cash flow positive. You're making money. You're profitable. Right. And so that's a total game changer, in general, because then you're really a steward of resources. Now you're not trying to like prove you can make money, whereas there are some, like, even if you look at like, Lemonade and Hippo that, like last I checked still hadn't made money yet. And, they like companies have to get to that point a lot faster in insurance. There's just no tolerance for, crappy loss ratios. There's just not, like, the market doesn't tolerate it. And you can see, 96% reduction in stock value in those public companies, and they just don't tolerate it. Like, pretty quickly, you got to prove that you can generate an underwriting profit,
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that your combined is going to be under 100. And then, like, it's, you have some steps, but the steps can't take that long. You're executing those steps faster than most because you used a heavy digital strategy. But like, I mean, so that's kind of what I was thinking about as you were describing it. But what makes Coterie, obviously it's an MGA, it's not a carrier, you're not writing your own paper, but like, what makes it unique and special? Like, other than the fact that underwriting, the application's pretty streamlined. I've gone through the application multiple times, right? I mean, just to see what it's like. And one time it kicked me out, and I had to modify the data a little bit to get it to not kick me out, so I could actually see what the rest of the application. It did take me longer than a minute. But like, what makes it different other than that? Are you just like really efficient at paying claims out? Are you like, what do you think is the difference maker in your BOP versus someone going to their State Farm agent and getting a BOP from State Farm?
Yeah. Well, so the product sells itself, James, in that it brings speed and simplicity, right? And so like our value prop is we can help agents make a buck on this small micro commercial because it's fast and easy to place. And they're not actually losing money by spending too much time, going through 90 questions on this retail BOP, on Main Street, America. And so the efficiency is what makes it, special, I would say, for agents, just because we are fast. If you look at some of our partners that are comparative raters, like we're always in the top 3 for return rate. And that top 3 in return rate is, rate call too. Like we're returning a bindable quote, not just an indication. So it's fast and easy, and it's off the agent's desk, so they can focus on writing larger stuff that has a lot better commission and they can make more money. I would say everything else right now, like back office day 2, there's some cool stuff that we do with self-servicing of like COIs and those types of things. But a lot of what we do on day 2 is market parity, right? 2.7% of our policyholders have a claim. Every single one of our policyholders has payments, right? So we try to streamline the payments and make sure that all of those transactions that are high volume, we're building in automations, we're building in workflow efficiencies, because if we're trying to maintain more of a fixed cost model while we grow this book, those are the areas that we need to focus on. And everywhere else, we're just trying to, meet expectations, if you will, at this point.
In going through my application of applying for insurance with Coterie for my company, I noticed that like it will not write business if you make over $10 million a year in revenue. It just says you got to talk to somebody. You can't do the digital. Like, Is that because, I mean, you're really targeting like Main Street businesses? You're not going after that. I think you kind of mentioned this, but that $10 million limit appears to be like where you guys are like, hey, we got to have somebody look at this.
Yeah.
So help me understand, like are you guys going to start going up market and going after larger businesses with the same streamlined digital process?
So that is definitely on the roadmap. I would say, first, before that, we're probably going to focus on non-admitted within the same space, right? So we're trying to, we're really trying to be able to offer that same speed and simplicity based on the data that we can get, right? So the more data that we can get, the further up market we can move. The fact that we have 3 writing carriers right now can put us in a position where in-app we can produce 3 declinations and a quote, hopefully within about the same amount of time that we're producing a quote for admitted products. So I think there's an opportunity for us to bring, some real value to our partners there. But, I think at some point in time, we're going to have to think about, are we going to challenge our tenants around speed in order to move up market to continue to scale? But we have a lot of opportunity, I feel like, right where we are now. And once we get up above that 10 million, James, that's when risks start to get more complex. And so we've really tried to build a box where agents get a quick yes or no. There's no referral process. It's either yes, we'll write it, or no, we won't. We don't have underwriters reviewing apps. And we've really created a tight box for maintaining a healthy loss ratio. And so something interesting about, managing profitability on the loss ratio side for us is every single one of my growth leaders has an underwriting background. So they're driving growth in ways that they feel comfortable, and with the thought of protecting loss ratio. And, our team is very insurance heavy and underwriting heavy, with a lot of really good technologists that are helping, solve problems with our folks. So I think we'll move up market at some point, but in the next year or two, I don't see it.
Well, America is a wonderful place to target small business because this is the easiest country on the planet to open and run your own business. And they need an easy way to get a BOP, and dealing with a company like mine that has a huge cyber and E&O issue is not ideal. So I totally get that. Really, really cool. Anyway, Rob, what you got?
Yeah, Bobbie. So just to confirm right now, you guys write GL, professional liability, and BOPs. Is that correct? For micro commercial, that's your target market. Any thoughts on expanding to work comp and some other lines, or that's still kind of TBD?
I think it's TBD. Like I said, we're kind of like shoring up the foundational tech right now. And next up, I think will be that ENS route, just because we know we have our declination data. We know what we can write, right? It's kind of guaranteed.
Makes sense.
And the last time, this was probably more than a year ago, Rob. So our books changed slightly since then. But the last time we looked at it, like only 14% of our policies had employees that we could find within the data. So the opportunity is there, but it's not so extreme. And I think, there's just, it's all about ROI. And here's the other thing. There are a lot of carriers and markets out there that do work comp fast and they do it well. So it's not like we necessarily be solving a new problem. It'd just be like, how can we better grow our book?
Yeah. No, I everything that you talk about, Bobbie, just, the term smart growth, right? Kind of really, and you talked about your team, you talked about their underwriting background, just the success that you've had both from the growth, but certainly on the financial side, and particularly the time that you've done this, right? 2002 to 2005. I mean, this was kind of I don't want to call it InsurTech winter. That's probably going a little too strong, but right, we saw that emphasis on profitability. James, you referenced some of the struggles of the kind of the early darlings, right? The lemonades, the hippos. We've seen certainly a lot of acquisitions. We've seen failures, et cetera. So I feel like you guys have been fighting headwinds at Coterie and having success despite maybe not the most favorable economic environment. I wanted to follow up, Bobbie, because a recurring theme throughout your career has been kind of that intrapreneur, right? Somebody that has great ideas, and you've kind of referenced it at previous positions, but then also like seeing them come to life. And it kind of felt like maybe, even at some of your more traditional carrier backgrounds, like you had the ideas, you would come up with a plan, but like that ability to kind of execute at the speed and the scale that you wanted to maybe wasn't there in a way that Coterie's given you that opportunity. So just for our audience, I would love for you to maybe share just a couple of thoughts of, keys to success in turning innovative ideas into real impactful change.
Yeah, like we all know that great ideas are easy. Everybody has great ideas. Getting a team to execute on those ideas and getting people to adopt them, that's where the real work comes in, right? And so even when I think about our API docs, they're public. Like if anyone wants to go look at them, they're welcome to. We don't hide our appetite behind a secret curtain either. Like all of our producer resources are public. It's it really comes down to execution and prioritization and change management. So getting buy-in from the people who are actually going to use your product, your technology. I'm going to admit, early Coterie days, it was hard. Agents were like, this isn't right. There's no way that this quote is real if you're giving it to me this fast. They didn't trust that they didn't have to fill out, this is too fast. I don't trust it.
This is too easy. You must be lying.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable.
I had a guy tell me that recently. I was able to do a quote over the phone on something with technology. And he goes, how on earth can you commit to that? I'm like, because I know this space really well. This is like, I said, why you worried? I'm literally giving you guaranteed cost on this. What's the concern? I'm sorry, you're worried about me making money or not? It's going to be fine. How'd you produce the quote? Because I know the space well. We've got the information. It's fine.
But that was definitely a challenge early on when I joined Coterie. And I think the other piece too is just thinking about, you have to solve a real problem. We've seen a lot of, insurtechs or even some digital MGAs. Sorry, I said digital MGAs again. It's going to take me 14 times to stop.
Those are other digital MGA, not you.
Well, I'm not, by the way, I wasn't criticizing. I was just challenging on what makes it digital.
No, I totally agree with you. I really need to, I want to stop using that term just because MGAs. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. It's just an MGA.
Yeah.
But there's insurtechs chasing innovation, but not necessarily solving a real problem or real pain point. Right. And so I remember sitting at the desk as an underwriter, when I was underwriting BOPs, or talking to some larger brokers, and they'd be like, we don't pay our producers any type of commission under X amount of revenue because we don't make any money. Right. And so what became, something that, probably was a product that, large brokers would turn their nose to. I was like, well, guess what? You can make money now because it's that fast and easy. And I also was not competing or cannibalizing on their large carrier contract business because they weren't writing it. So it was kind of new and net new to all of these larger agencies where they weren't making money and they weren't focused on it, but now they could. So, we've had a lot of luck, getting that adoption within centralized marketing teams and, the larger brokers. But I think the biggest thing with the intrapreneurship is that persistence and that grit and that resilience, because it's not easy. You're going to run into big challenges. You're going to run into people that say, this is horrible. This is a terrible idea. Being very persuasive and being, consistently persistent is my best advice, Rob, because I think you have to sell the change both internally and externally. And in both areas, we've had a lot of resistance to change, even at Coterie. Folks saying I don't think this is going to work. Let's push. Let's see what happens. Let's test it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And look, maybe we just call them innovative. You have innovative companies and non-innovative companies, but you're at the end of the day, if I were you, I'd just say, hey, we're just a better kind of MGA. I'm excited about the future of insurance. I'm excited about how technology has really helped transform and eliminate a lot of the menial tasks that make people's lives miserable. If you really nail it down with me, why am I even bothering to run an insurance software company? Because I think that we help make lives better, and we help bring more certainty to decision making in insurance companies, and we eliminate boring menial stuff no one wants to do. Like at the end of the day, hopefully we drive better margins, right? If they make because they have to make good business decisions too to drive better margins.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the tech, because that's why this is a tech show. I'm going to wrap up with this question. What have been the decision making process like around tech? Have you gone entirely in-house built? Did you use some off-the-shelf software plus some in-house technology? Did you become a software company? Did you just license and have good technology partners and be quick to adopt them and quick to change? Like, help me understand the decision-making process around technology.
That's been a fun journey, if I'm going to be honest. So there are areas where we're doing build yourself. And those areas are those areas that we have our value prop and we think that we're ahead of market. So our automated underwriting engine, how we built our imputation models around the data to feed in, data fields that come back null based on our searches. That is all internal. So the machine learning, the AI, all of that is us. We've also made a decision to host most of the policy admin internally as well with our own tech team. For obvious reasons, we just didn't want to be beholden to, some of those big software names, and they're really expensive. And we didn't have a ton of money as a startup.
They are super expensive. Yeah. And if you have a really narrow focus on states and lines, then sometimes you can, depending on the line of business, sometimes you can build your own tech.
Yeah. Where we have vendor relationships are areas that, we kind of talked about earlier, where we're just at market. We're meeting expectations. Our claim system, we partner with Salesforce for CRM and some of our service automations.
And for claims, or different, do you have a different claims product?
We have a different claims product.
Yeah.
And we have plenty of vendors, but I would say the core systems where we think we have the differentiators, that's where we keep it in house.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, it's a tough decision to build something because it is really expensive, but sometimes it can be even, way more expensive to get something really one of the top 3 providers and then pay the implementation services. Often that budget is higher than just building it on your own. Which is what you, I'm sure, inevitably found in that particular case. That's great.
Yeah. And it takes longer, right? Which is why, we've been waiting a little bit to introduce new products into our distribution. But I think it's going to be well worth it once we get to that point. And we've been able to scale and grow without new products for a period of time. So it's just, really making sure we refine those differentiators is our focus for the next year and a half. And then hopefully maybe in 2026, we'll see some non-admitted hit the market for Coterie.
Oh, nice. Rob, bring us home with our last question.
Yeah, no, I just, it sounds like you've really done phenomenal at Coterie. You've really enjoyed that experience. I don't know if you have any thoughts about somebody that might be working within the more, traditional firms. And obviously a lot of people have made the leap. A lot of people have made the leap back, whatever. So just, kind of personally for you, like, how has the jump been? And if somebody is thinking about, right, and trying to weigh pros and cons. I don't know if you have any things that maybe, they should think about as they're wrestling with that decision.
Yeah, I think it comes down to what kind of flow is your ideal flow, right? So when I was in incumbents, I found myself very antsy, impatient, felt like things weren't moving fast enough. And then I went over to Coterie and I was like, wow, this is fast. So I went from, walking at 2 miles an hour on a treadmill to running at somewhere between 7 and 11 miles an hour on a treadmill most days. And so the pace is really fast. So it's kind of like, what flow do you like? Do you like to innovate fast? Do you like to, test and learn and fail and pick up the pieces and start over again in a very short period of time? Or do you kind of like steady Eddie? And there's plenty of incumbent carriers where you can be somewhere between 2 and 6 miles an hour on a treadmill and not have to sprint every day. I like sprinting. I like running fast. It's really where I find the energy. It's where I'm most comfortable. So I think that's my best advice, Rob, because it's definitely a different world. And I truly didn't have an appreciation or understanding of it until I lived it.
Yeah, no, you're so right. So I haven't worked for, a startup, but I've interviewed for positions and been asked to present like a strategic plan or whatnot. And the stuff that I would say would happen over the next 3 years. I mean, the questions I would get were like, why can't we do this in 6 months? And you're like, well, I thought I was being aggressive getting all this in. I could never in my, traditional career, this is like a 10-year plan. Right. So yeah, I mean, what you're saying totally resonates with me. I think that's an excellent analogy and a great way to put it for folks. And definitely a great question to kind of ask and to think very seriously, right? Just about your stage of life, personality, all that is, all those factors that makes total sense. And as you mentioned too, like, or you kind of alluded to, a lot of the people that you may be working for, right, that are founding the company, whatever, they're probably technologists, right? They're not necessarily from within the industry, right? Either they got frustrated or, right, they're just totally different expectations, right? And like you have to introduce them to like some of the procedural things that make insurance kind of slow and painful.
Like regulators, compliance.
I didn't say it.
Don't know what you're talking about. Well, that's excellent. And I really appreciated the conversation today, Bobbie. I'm excited about what you're working on at Coterie. And obviously it's wonderful to meet a fellow insurance junkie / geek. We're going to include you in the geek phase. Yeah. And I'm excited about the future, both your future in the industry and obviously what the company is working on and striving towards. And obviously congratulations on making money, being profitable.
Yay!
Like that's a big freaking deal. I feel like I want a segment of this show, like like Dave Ramsey has a segment. I love Dave Ramsey, and he has a segment of his show where people cut their credit cards up, and then he like celebrates that the credit cards are gone. And I feel like I want that. Like when companies turn profitable, we need like a segment of the show where we celebrate it. So this is us celebrating you guys making money.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
It's a big deal. Means you can
add some cool graphics or something. You guys can help with that.
some emoticons. Certainly I can just do a few here really quick in my video feed. So there you go. There you go. So
right at your fingertips.
We'll celebrate it and then say, hey, look, congratulations, excited for you, and hope to see you. Hope to see you this summer in Mecca for Pilots, otherwise known as Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome.
It was a pleasure.
Awesome place. And to our listeners in Listenerland, thank you for tuning in today to Geek Out, our interview with Bobbie Collies from Coterie Insurance. See you next time. The InsurTech Geek podcast is all about technology that's transforming and disrupting the insurance world. I've been your host, James Benham. That's jamesbenham.com, with co-host Rob Galbraith at endofinsurance.com. We're taking you on a journey through insurance tech, so enjoy the ride and geek out.